Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 410. This is your guide to the geek side. And this is just one of the audio podcasts you can listen to with Secret Friends Unite. On our network feed, you can get everything from Star Wars, Star Trek, to video games, to all the world of nerd on this podcast you're listening to now. So rate us, subscribe, and tell your friends. We'd love to hear that it's getting loved by more and more people as we speak.
Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Bum, bum, bum.
Exactly. And another way to experience our podcast is visually on YouTube. We put all our podcasts up there so more people can find us. Some people find it easier to adjust content when they have YouTube on the computer screen in the background. So we're there. Rate us, like, and let people know you like that as well. When we're not doing that, we're introducing ourselves. So I am Todd Oxtra, one of your hosts, joined by Charlie Carden.
What's up? All right. Sunday, we're up to 410. So we survived 400 through 409, which isn't that when usually most podcasts fail, when they're in the first 10 episodes of their 400 episode block?
There's probably a smaller sample size of a podcast over 400 issues or episodes. So I'm guessing it's more if they make it to number 10 at the beginning, they're more likely to happen. So yeah, the attrition rate, when you look at like podcasts, you looking to see, well, when did they finish? Oh, their last episode was like 2019. Because most people know that this stuff, after a time, it's not the easiest thing. If you don't love doing it, you're going to stop because it takes a huge amount of your time, commitment. Yeah.
If you know what, I've always kind of learned, and again, living my life in marketing, you whatever your consistency rate is, it has to be a consistent consistency rate. So if it's once a week, which is what we do here, if it's biweekly, which we do for our other 3 shows, if it's once a month, if it's a couple times a quarter, it just has to be very fixated. It's like it's every Tuesday, Secret Friends Unite. Boom. So you're just, when you pick your phone up that day and you're going to jump in the car like I always do, it's got to be there. So here we are. You will see us on Tuesday. And Todd, are we going to talk about other developments that might be happening?
No.
Okay, we're not going to be talking about those other developments. You're just going to be surprised by them. Get ready.
Yes. When you know what we're talking about, you'll know what we're talking about.
You'll know.
Yes, absolutely. Know. Yeah, so, and something else we're talking about is this wonderful cover.
Oh, my goodness.
Where we've got a number 10 matching the last 2 digits of her podcast, which is DC Superstars Giant presents Strange Sports, 9 sensational superheroes versus 9 sinister supervillains in an all-new baseball spectacular. Strike 1, Luthor gets punched. Strike 2, Joker gets punched. And then we've got random people with gloves and bats.
Yeah,
and pitching.
What's going on with on the, obviously you see in the background here, you see, and these are all very much the style of like Super Friends, because you got like Wonder Woman in that classic look. You see Robin in the classic look, but who else is that? Like the Atom, and I think I see Black Canary back there. Who's the dude? Oh, is that supposed to be like Gentleman Ghost, but he's in a baseball outfit, like from like, he looks like kind of like Babe Ruth, like the old timey like stripes.
Why is he the only person actually dressed up like he's actually going to play baseball?
Could they maybe be on their way to the quartermaster or wherever it is you get your baseball outfits from? I don't know. He's ahead of the game. He brought his own.
The was a DC villain, so maybe he's the equipment manager.
Maybe that's the sportsman. I'm trying to figure out if he has a head or not. Like if he's head, I don't know. I'm very confused.
The cover's a little small in front of me because it kind of looks like he's got a cloak over his face or something like that.
Or he's wearing 2 baseball caps, one on his head and one that he's holding in the air. Oh my God. And this is from September of 1976. So it's only slightly younger than I am. So this was a comic you could have picked up at your corner drugstore when your C3 was just a baby. Yes,
50
indeed.
cents, and there's just too much in this comic book.
Right. It's a lot of content. Like they say in the Blues Brothers, that's a lot of entertainment for $2, which was only 50 cents. So it's a fraction of that. I don't know. But it doesn't really matter because while this is awesome, fun, and exciting, the real juice, the juice that gets the squeeze is, as always, down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. I'm talking about our 123-year-old senior news correspondent, Madam Webb, with all the hottest scoops waiting for us now. So let's do it.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Well, everything's, I guess, turning up Madam Webb this year. So we've got some news about that, actually. And we probably should actually get to that one first, Charlie. You know, why delay the inevitable? So, Madam Webb, this news story is for you. And that is, apparently, Charlie, we've got a Madam Webb update where it's actually happening. This movie...
Real news?
The Webb logo for Madam Webb was revealed as Spider-Man spinoffs wraps filming. This movie's actually filmed.
It's a real deal? It's the real deal, Holyfield? Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Director of photography Dwayne Charles Manwiller, which is probably not real, reveals Madam Webb's official logo.
Lance Manley?
No, not Lance Manley. No,
it's just Manwiller, like you said, does not sound like a...
No, it does not sound real, no. Confirms that the Spider-Man spinoff has wrapped filming. And then he revealed in a snapshot on Twitter of the logo, Madam Webb. Director is Darren Prescott. And it's official because it's on one of those clapboards, I guess is what they call it.
The clapboard, and someone who had really beautiful writing with one of those large Sharpies. I'm impressed. It's no squiggle to it.
No, you need someone. That's one of the qualifications to run that board. It's like someone who writes cue cards.
Right, exactly. Exactamundo. I love it. Well, that's great. So if it's wrapped filming, when do we think we might see this magnum opus? Is it already on the schedule? Okay, that's November instead of November.
Yeah, so as of right now, it's set to release. So let's see.
I see. Yeah, okay. Keep scrolling. Blah, blah, blah.
Looking for
Carnage. Feb 16. Feb 16, a little over a year.
Initially scheduled for January 13th. Apparently, it's moved out a month.
Yes.
Original release date was October 6th, but now February 16th, 2024.
You know what's so exciting about that is the actual anniversary of April 9th's first date. It'll be 10 years this year. Next year, it'll be 11 years. But this year, for our first date anniversary, we're going to see Antman because we can't see it any later because of, what we do here. And then it'll be the same thing next year. We'll go see Madam Webb, and so that we can do we have to do our spoiler cast no matter how good or bad it is, because Madam Webb's part of the team. We gotta prioritize her stuff. So I'm totally down.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this movie, essentially, we don't know much about it, although we know Dakota Johnson will portray Cassandra Webb, Madam Webb. Sydney Sweeney will reportedly portray Julia Carpenter. And then Madam Webb also stars Mike Epps, Tahar Rahim, Isabella Merced, Celeste O'Connor, Zoysia Mamet, and Emma Roberts. So an eclectic cast of people we know.
Yeah, don't know. It's a dead airspace between Mike Epps and Emma Roberts as far as let me go to IMDb and find
the 6 degrees of those two characters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because Julia Carpenter is your 1980s Spider-Woman who came from Secret Wars and then later went on to be in the West Coast Avengers, and then eventually she becomes Madam Webb. Sorry, spoiler. And that's kind of the history of the character. So yes, this will hoping for a redemption for the Spumco, because let's just face it.
And apparently, Charlie, this is something else I didn't know. Apparently, Adam Scott was supposed to appear as Uncle Ben in the film, which just means Adam Scott is probably 39, maybe around that age. So
he's got to be in his early 40s.
But still. And we don't know. Because of the connectivity, the canon of this. Obviously, we've got our current Spider-Man who's young, so it could be, and he's obviously dead, and we've never seen him, and he's really never been referenced much at all in the current Spider-Man films. So I don't know if this is
Adam Scott is 49, making him older than both of us.
What?
Swear to God.
Man, he looks good for his age.
Adam Scott, born April 3, 1973. So he turns 50 in just a couple of months. Damn, he's Paul Rudd.
I was going to say, he's the new Paul Rudd.
Yeah. If you look at the other, Amy Poehler is 51. It just appears on the same page because they're associated. Isn't that bizarre?
It's weird. It's weird because I always assumed he was younger than me. Oh well.
Right. His first role that anybody ever saw him is he had a cameo in Star Trek First Contact as the helmsman of the Defiant in that battle with the Borg. He's the one who says, blah, 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 we're dying. Another ship is coming in. It's the Enterprise. He says to Worf, because Worf is in command. And then he has all of 7 seconds of screen time, but he did have a couple of lines. But yeah, that was him. You don't end up seeing him again. So you don't even know if he survived, if he beamed on the Enterprise and then maybe he was Borgified and died. So you don't know. You don't know.
He was a late bloomer. I think one of his first real starring roles was in that sitcom Party Down, which if you hadn't watched it, it's pretty funny. It's about folks that work catering gigs, and Jane Lynch is in it, Ken Marino, and a bunch of other folks. I'd recommend checking it out. It's pretty different type of show. There's some pretty wild things in that one. But we'll see how this goes and how it all fits. And we've got essentially almost a year from now, this will be a reality.
Oh, well, what else we got up next? So this is this is about Dungeons and Dragons. We have a movie coming out in March with the former, presumably former to be Never Again, Captain Kirk. That would be Chris Pine. But this is about a TV show. So Todd, this is your wheelhouse. Go for it.
Yeah, so we are getting that movie, like you mentioned. So, and D&D is now owned by Hasbro, and it's funny because they've been going through some things, but they've really been trying to build up the D&D brand as part of their other properties they essentially own, which is which is admirable. How is it all going to fit? Do they have a good track record? And D&D itself has a horrible track record, horrible performance with live action things. Go ahead and watch the D&D movie from 2000 with Jeremy Irons. Horrible.
And what's his ass? One of the Wayans was in it. Was it Marlon?
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, one of the worst ones. Sean, I think, is who it is. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, exactly. Who's done nothing else, I think. So we are essentially, though, if all goes according to plan, we are going to get a TV series on Paramount Plus. So this is interesting because I don't know what the relationship between Paramount and Hasbro is.
Viacom, and are there other Hasbro related properties that is it some kind of deal? I don't know.
Transformers, Paramount, because I thought it was Universal. No, that's Paramount, right?
The Transmorphers. As far as producing the films, I think that's Paramount.
Those are Paramount films. Yeah, so that makes sense.
It's the same thing with the G.I. Joe films. Maybe there is
they have a relationship. Yeah,
Viacom also has claws in there or whatever. Not that any of those were. Well, I know there's a new Transformers film coming up that you're excited about, but nothing that preceded it has really blown the doors off. But so Dungeons and Dragons has been around since the 70s. I have a lot of really hardcore D&D folks in my friends orbit. Missy, who's a future contributor to the show, she's part of our crew over on the Petoskey. She's a big D&D person. I got a buddy of mine who I used to have a working relationship with when I worked in the restaurant industry. Big D&D guy. Just tons and tons of people love Dungeons and Dragons and have for the past 50 years. So anyway, you think that they'll pull their orcs out of the fire here and make something that people want to watch? Is this at all have any interconnectivity to the film as far as producers, and what does it say here?
No, let's see. They're partnering. Yeah. So yes, they are partnering with, this is a really, it's hard to get to the details to see if they're going to have the same producers that have worked on this movie. They talk about the movies being directed by Jonathan Goldstein and Jonathan Francis Daly, but they don't necessarily say that they will actually be actively involved in this TV series. Mm-hmm. And the thing that gives me pause about Paramount doing something other than Star Trek is they just don't have a lot of experience with it.
Right.
As we saw with Halo.
I know that you were really hating on Halo, which again, we liked it, and I've said that, I think I said this most recently as our last episode, we're without the baggage of any frame of reference of, well, Master Chief didn't take his helmet off, or he doesn't show his butt, or whatever it was
you know how you love some of those Star Trek comics that don't really fit?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they're not canon, they're not canon, so it doesn't really matter anyways.
Right, exactly.
The Halo TV show, they said it's a different pocket universe, so it's not really based on anything. And based on that, it's I don't know who this is for.
Such a crock, a different pocket universe. No, but there's a Deep Space Nine comic coming up where they have the uniforms in the right colors, but the colors are reversed. The shoulders on the jacket are supposed to be gray quilted, but instead they're colored, and then the undershirt is wrong color. It's just... Yeah, it's just do your
Charlie,
homework,
they
guys.
changed the uniforms for a short period of time. They didn't tell you. Now it's coming out. So now you have to get all new uniforms.
It was just for the
Surprise.
purpose of this comic book series, and then they changed back.
That's the only thing canon. We this is actually canon. We're keeping this storyline. Everything else, boom, gone.
Just the uniforms, can't take it. So anyway, Todd, so this gives you pause, but I assume you'll take a dip and you'll at least see how you feel about it.
Absolutely. Why not? What's it going to hurt me? I've got Paramount Plus.
What's it going to hurt me? You don't know how it's going to hurt you. So don't tempt fate.
And the problem is they've got some competition in the fantasy realm now with House of Dragons and also Lord of the Rings. And there's been some other good stuff as well. Some people like the Wheel of Time series on Amazon. So this could really stand out to be horrible and just once again represent fantasy isn't easy to do, or maybe
stand out to be horrible.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So I why not? We'll see how this goes. It'll be great to have more shows delving in different areas for Paramount versus just it's a Star Trek channel with some Yellowstone.
That's right. Well, it's funny, and as I've griped, it's not even Yellowstone; it's Yellowstone adjacent. So you've got that main show, which is difficult to get access to, and then everything adjacent is on Paramount Plus. So it's licensing. It's all licensing.
It's like you get the Spider-Man properties from Marvel, all right? It's like
it's very much the same. But you're not going to see live action Spider-Man on Disney Plus because of what, or maybe they resolved that. I don't think
the current show and all the prequels, because it's now going to be 90% prequels and one current show.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, so complicated. All right, moving on, as I'd love to say. Put it on a shirt. Keep your eyes peeled. This looks fantastic. Now, it's funny. We watched this past Friday was Friday the 13th. So I'm like, let's watch a horror movie. And so we go over to Paramount Plus, my favorite streamer. And we wanted to watch Friday the 13th. And it was so annoying that there was an audio-visual, the audio and the video were unsynchronized. And I couldn't, even going in and out, I couldn't get it to right itself. And I went back and I would start something else to make sure it wasn't a problem with that. So anyway, we gave up on Friday the 13th and we moved on to this point to why I'm telling the story. We moved on to something else that was on my list, which was the classic American Werewolf in London, the John Landis movie from 1981. God, I love that. So werewolf stuff is on my mind. But Todd, you love Sarah Michelle Gellar, who's the star of this deal. So go for it.
Yeah, it's funny because not funny, really. I'm a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, and Buffy, Sarah Michelle Gellar, that's part of my youth. So I really loved it. She hasn't done a lot of stuff that I've really enjoyed outside of that. I think she was in a couple of horror films, but other than that, I really haven't followed her career in other things.
Right.
But she is now kind of going back to the genre roots, and she's going to be in this new TV series called Wolfpack. And it's basically executive produced by the guy behind Teen Wolf, which was on MTV, and it has a big fan base and everything.
It was my April and our son Nathaniel when he was growing up. He was a teenager, not like when he was 6 years old, but 10 years ago, this was a show that they followed. I mean, they really loved it. I watched it a handful of times, didn't really grab me, but big fan base. So people like the wolf stuff.
Yeah, and that was at the weird time when when MTV decided to make some, I guess, decently scripted shows like Scream this and Teen Wolf. So I'm like, but it was like that was such a small little window, and they said, "Oh, this is too hard doing quality entertainment.
It's too hard. It's too hard.
Or whatever." Yeah,
I'm gonna quit. Yeah, let me put on the guy who's the Rob. What's his face? The skateboarding guy.
Ridiculous or whatever it's called. Ridiculousness or whatever the show's called.
Oh my God.
And 20 hours of that streaming on MTV. But
you better believe it. It's all there.
Here. So this Wolfpack series, it's actually going to be. It's based on a book series by Ido van Volkum, and it's essentially following a teenage boy and girl whose lives are forever changed when a California wildlife awakens a terrifying supernatural creature. When in the chaos of its attacks, the teens are inexplicably drawn to each other and to two others who were adopted 16 years earlier by a park ranger after another mysterious wildfire. As the moon rises, all four teens come together to unravel a secret that connects them: the bite and blood of a werewolf. Yes. This looks pretty good. Could be interesting. Sarah Michelle Gellar, where she fits in, that she's essentially a cop and she's actually an arson investigator. And she's an expert in her field. And she's being brought in to figure out who the arsonist is, which will obviously then lead into a larger mystery. Why not? It could be good.
I love it. And it does say at the bottom of this, and I apologize if you said it because I was updating my notes as we were talking, but same day drop as a original Teen Wolf TV movie at the end of this month, Thursday, January 26th. So it's going to be a Wolfie kind of scenario happening.
Yeah, and because this is based on a book series, Teen Wolf is based on, the classic movies that were so serious.
Yes, a very classic basketball playing part-time lycanthrope played by Michael J. Fox. Or Jason, not Jason Priestley.
Jason Baseman.
Jason,
yeah.
Not Base. See, we both screwed it up. There was a Jason and a Priestley and a Baseman. And also famous for the bleacher scene with the guy who was sitting there with his wiener hanging out. That was one of those like, what? You've heard of that, haven't you?
Yeah. It's like the ghost in the window in Two Men and a Baby.
Right, exactly. No, yeah, it was a forced projection from Star Wars because it was directed by Leonard Nimoy. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Oh no. Anyway, this looks like fun. I'm totally on board. This is probably 6 or 8 episodes. Like most shows are these days.
That's typically the standard length. Yeah, and it's on Paramount Plus, and they've been pretty good for keeping shows. They don't like drop them and then say we're not doing any more episodes. So hopefully they're in for the long run if it's good.
I love it. Well, all right. The big genre news kicking off. Obviously, the Marvel Cinematic Universe in force in 2023 would be a final trailer for Antman 3, the Quadrophenia, the Who is not going to show up, which we're getting on Feb 17. Wow, yeah, I didn't think we got a ton of recycled footage in this, but we did get some new Easter egg mania, and we got our first look at Modok. Thank God they put this in here because I couldn't remember the first part of it. Modok stands for Modok, is the mechanized organism designed only for killing. I remember the last part, but not the first part. I love Modok, but this does not look like your happy go slappy Patton Oswalt Modok. He looks like he's pretty pissed because he shows up like a. Does he have 4 arms in this?
He has little arms that are going up to the side of it. And then it looks like guns coming out. So I don't know if those are officially arms as well.
Right. Oh my goodness. So I have a nice classic Marvel Legends Deluxe Modok figure, and I don't collect these other figures. But obviously, updating something for the big screen is kind of important. If you put Spider-Man on the big screen just straight up wearing, some underoos or something, it would look absolutely ridiculous. The same way that, like, for Star Trek, they didn't use the old cardboard sets when they started making the movies in the 70s. So I understand updating Modok, but yeah, it's in this photo here, he's kind of casted in a shroud. And I don't know if does he have a mouth with teeth? Am I looking at that correctly?
Really, it's a mask. It's a mask over the big reveal was that this Modok is Corey Stoll or Yellow Jacket. And we didn't see him die, but we thought he died in Ant-Man 1. And apparently he's now in the Quantum Verse. And
I hate it when that happens.
How he got a huge head. I don't know how that happens.
I just don't know. So Modok, I knew he was a long tenured character, but he's really from originated in 1967's Tales of Suspense 94. And he's a mutated, he's a cyborg. He's a dude with a big head that sits in a chair, and he's been part of several big villain crews, including Intelligentsia, which was from She-Hulk. It was the Insidious Incel Brigade.
That's the red site, yes, for all things hate. Yeah, yes. It was kind of weird. And that's obviously the big reveal in this, but then we get some story beats in this trailer that are really talking about that. I think there could be some flim-flam, Charlie, because Scott Lang apparently says, I've ran out of time and missed out on time. And apparently it appears that he's made a deal with the devil to get some time back because of the blink and because he was in jail and some things like that. I think that's flim-flam. I think it's really going to be Janet potentially made a deal, because think of how the time she lost. She lost far more time. Was away from her family. And finally came back. So it might have been part of the reason why she was able to come back as easy as she was. That was part of the deal that she would bring them back in. I don't know. That's my thought, or could be.
And that's why I said April, I said, how come we watch this whole trailer and you don't hear a peep out of Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, and because he was such a driving force in the other 2 films. And she says, I think this story is really about Michelle Pfeiffer's character. So there you go.
Yeah,
could absolutely be. But you could see for the purpose of the trailer, and let's hope nobody's going to sue, because I guess that's a thing now. Don't you remember we talked about that several weeks ago? Which is crap, in my opinion. Suing over a trailer not being up.
Unless you can get money from it, then we can we get our lawyer. Yeah.
And then it's great. Yes, we get who's our SFU lawyer? Is it Bat
John
Mike?
C. Flimflam?
John C. Yes, the Bob blah 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 blah.
Yes.
But at any rate, this was fun. Yeah. So obviously, in a trailer, you're trying to create a buzz. You're trying to hook people, which is, hilariously unnecessary. And because the MCU films 100% have a built-in audience, but the marketing machine never ends. So you can kind of see why they're doing it this way. So, and we're getting Catherine Newton as the new version of Cassie. Slightly older Cassie. David Dalmatian is coming back, which is awesome. And
he's in a new role, though. He's not playing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Bill Murray, just from the very glimpse of it, kind of strikes me as being like a grandmaster like character, like what we got out of the delightful Jeff Goldblum in Ragnarok. And then you list an actor, and I have to look up the name. William Jackson Harper says, in quotes, potentially is Reed Richards. So another Reed Richards. I think.
It's the guy from The Good Place. Chidi.
Oh yeah, Chidi. Yeah. Okay,
that would be a good pick.
Yeah,
he's a good egghead. Why not?
He is the master. So anyway, yes, as I said, February 17, which is a Friday, is the drop date. But because we'll be going the Thursday before, that is the 10th anniversary of April 9th's first date. And she had turned to me months ago and said, well, that's what we're doing on our anniversary, isn't it? I said, don't hate the player, hate the game. Got to take care of business.
No, honey, you come first. What would you like to do?
That is what she would like to do. That's the irony of it. That's why we're such a good couple. She wouldn't want to do anything else because we love going to the movie. So anyway, that should be great. And I'm expecting tickets will go on sale within the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
We're like a month and 2 days away from that. So yeah, I would be surprised. So, all right, final story about Rob Patton Bat. Robert Pattinson's version of The Batman, which we saw, it was a little over a year ago that movie came out. But it says here, Matt Reeves has a big Batverse plan outside of James Gunn's DCU. Now, does he have a plan that is like a little fun little plan in his head, or is it a plan that actually is going to mean something, like not like The Rock's plans?
Yeah, I don't think his plan is to go around everybody else and just say, this is our plan, and speak to everybody, excluding the people that will actually make the plan come together.
Yeah,
right. It's like the kid who tries to subvert, like, oh, I went to mom and asked her. She said, okay, nope, it didn't actually happen, and vice versa. So it's like the Parent Trap or something like that. I don't think that's what's happened this. But what we're hearing now, Reeves is going to sit down with Gunn and Safran and discuss the arc of what he has planned for the Batman films and all the side projects versus what Gunn and Safran have planned. Because Gunn and Safran is basically saying everything is up for grabs to be used when they're going to tell their stories. So at this point, you don't want it to be like, say you had the... blanking on his name. The Batman films that we got before with Christopher Nolan.
With what's his butt? Oh my God, I can't remember either. Christian Bale.
Yeah, you essentially don't want to say, okay, guess what? You're going to now have to take this Batman and pulse him into different projects that doesn't fit with what Nolan wanted, because that would just get icky. And I don't think Christian Bale would be like, yeah, I'm up to do and fight, Thanos or, Mongol or somebody like that. Same thing here. I don't know if this team is like, yeah, I'll gladly step in and take on these goofy space villains. That makes sense with my character art. No, it doesn't, because if he has a hard time struggling with normal criminals, I don't think he's going to be able to take them to JLA or any of that stuff.
Bringing on Mr. Mixel Plixik.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like it doesn't fit thematically, and that's why I'm like, I think that's the point. He's like saying it just doesn't work, and I don't think you're going to get these other actors and Matt Reeves, and then what is Matt Reeves then have to replan his story along what happened in this movie? That gets kind of sucky. So that's why I'm thinking that this might be one of those standalone, just like the Joker, because they pre-existed James Gunn's plans.
Right.
But I think everything else is up for grabs. I don't know.
Nice. Yeah. Grab it. step up and grab it. Yeah, I need to revisit the Batman because I know it was delightful and everybody loved it, and you know that I saw it on a Friday night and I was sleeping. But the parts of it I saw I did enjoy, and it did well. Globally made $750 million. So yeah, they're gonna make some more. But this would be interesting. And again, that's the beauty of this kind of stuff, is that it can spin off in a lot of different directions. And while, I think there would be a small percentage of the audiences in genre land who couldn't understand that, okay, well, this is not associated with this. And because, because of people like you and I people who listen to shows, and there's so much, information available on the internet, that people understand when things divert in different directions the same way you understand that, Tom Holland is Spider-Man, but then there's also a group of, the animated with Miles Morales, and it's not really, it's connected, but it's not connected. So I don't have any, concerns about the viability of doing something like this. So I'd like to see what they're going to do with it. Make it happen.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, and hopefully this could be a more successful show. Just call it like Batman Elseworlds or Elseworlds, right. Whatever. And then they could say, these are stories that are just unique takes on characters. Right. And we want to tell those stories. But we also want to tell, more broad and, connected stories as well with these classic characters. So there's something for everyone, meaning you get not only the R-rated Batman, you get a Batman that just like how they always do the comic books or the cartoons with Batman and different things. And it works. And people can get that. Yeah, that Batman can be goofy and this one can be serious, and it is perfectly fine. It worked less well when you did X-Men Origins, which was a series of one movie.
Right. It's hard to do a series when for the first one people are like, ugh.
Exactly.
The collective,
yeah. So we'll see what's next. We're supposed to get in January. We're supposed to get a reveal of everything, but I'm perfectly fine with getting. Audiences can be smart. They're not all dumb saying, well, why isn't Batman doing this? It's kind of like why we have movies in the MCU. It's like, why aren't the Avengers showing up to do something? Well, they were on a break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Audiences, even though I don't always necessarily give audiences in general a lot of credit for being super savvy, when it comes to this kind of stuff, people can walk and chew gum at the same time. They can really figure out what's going on. So yeah, I'm not concerned that they can't split up and, like you said, tell, decent stories in whatever lens it tends to fall into. So, anyway, all right. Well, that's the news. Todd, it's time. Got to get out the Feebluber app. Fuber? Anyway, got to get boogieing. It's time to get down to Scuggsville, Nasty Town. The Geek Easy awaits. Talk about what we're watching and reading. So let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, drinks are poured, and the cover band is playing. And we are ready to talk about what we've been nerding out about in the Geek Easy this week. So Charlie, the first thing you're going to talk about is I listened to it in their podcast and they talked about this exact series. So I am up to speed.
So great. If you are a long-term listener of this show, you know that here in the Geek Easy, we have long been fans of the yacht rock, soft rock hits of the 1970s and 80s and really all the way on to today. Well, Paramount Plus got the note. They must know how much I love them. They must listen to the show and said, you know what, let's make something that's for Charlie. Let's make something for Charlie that he's going to sit and he and April are going to watch it and he'll be singing for 3 hours. 3 installments of something called Sometimes When We Touch soft rock hits. And this really kind of takes us through, the post-Vietnam or the dwindling Vietnam era of the early 1970s when people were like, man, things are tough and music is tough and we just really need something to alleviate that. And, popular music dog-legged into something that was a little easier to digest with, bands like Casey and the Sunshine Band. That was a little more disco. God, now I'm pressed to think of examples. Captain Tennille was really big in this special.
Air Supply.
Is
yes, the number one soft rock band I think of.
Yeah, right, exactly. And Todd, lots of selections from Steely Dan, your personal favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, I know how much you hate Steely Dan.
They're so edgy with their easy listening tunes.
There was
elevator stylings.
Yes, exactly. Especially with a name like Steely Dan, which is some kind of medieval torture device or something. That's where they took their name from.
Just like their music is to my ears.
Yeah, right. Oh, let's take a chainsaw and chop off Todd's ears. It's great. But yeah, no, this was a ton of fun. And again, we watched it over a couple of nights, and I just never stopped singing. I turned to April before we started. I said, I'm going to be singing through this whole deal. And she's like, I know. And I just had a lot of fun. And naturally that got me back into, we have the Amazon Prime Music Unlimited, which is a service I pay for every month. And I was just in there, build me a new yacht rock playlist. Christopher Cross. There we go. There's the big one that I think of. God, I love Christopher Cross. Such a talented dude.
They have like yacht rock playlists already.
Oh, I did. And I played one of those, but nothing's better than doing it yourself and finding all the creme de la creme,
about yacht rock, I've learned listening to enough of those. There's like 30 yacht rock songs. That's it. Anything else is like, it's not yacht rock. We're calling it that.
I think the playlist was like 65 songs, but a lot of it, tends
a stretch.
Tend to etch and web. So anyway, Todd, it's a fun watch. You'll find yourself singing along. So I recommend it. I think.
Yeah, what I had heard though, nobody could really determine what soft rock was because essentially they put ballads in there from like Angie. They said a soft rock. No,
they did. Ballad. They said, even bands like the Rolling Stones were, because that was from 73. Yeah, exactly.
So I think determining what soft rock is, they said that's the problem with this. That's what they said. They said they couldn't figure out what soft rock was, so it became a meandering mess of just we're trying to make something, and it's probably half baked, and it's probably way too long for what it is. So I'm like, I heard that, I'm like, it's a skip.
I would simply say that is probably, and I think they explore this really in the docudrama that's probably what has helped it survive. And they also go through a whole segment of how rap samples in the 90s had everything to do with soft rock, from De La Soul sampling I Can't Go For That from Hall & Oates to, Baby Baby I'm Falling in Love ended up on a Nas record or something. I mean, there was just an absolute ton of it. And all the
Is it some song called Through the Line?
Through the Fire.
That was in the rap song though. In Through the Line or something like that because they use that sample.
You see what I mean? Right. And they had Daryl Simmons from Run DMC, which I'm a huge Run DMC fan, and I met him at C2E2 when we were there in 2020, talking about even growing up in Hollis, Queens, I was listening to soft rock because that was what was on the radio, and it was influential in one of the most influential rap groups in the golden age of rap. So, Todd, while I understand why it's a skip, it is very difficult to deny the power of soft rock. So anyway, Paramount Plus is where you can find that. Secondly, went to the theaters, and it was funny. We were having one of our regular Cards Against Humanity nights with our best couples friends, Jay and Tammy, down at their house. They live in our neighborhood. And we were talking about, what'd you guys do today? I said, we went to the movies, and we saw the new Tom Hanks picture, which is A Man Called Otto. And I said, name me something Tom Hanks has done in his career that sucks. I challenge you, Todd. You're an knowledgeable guy. Can you tell me something Tom Hanks has done that is just a pile? I mean, you can't even say
Bosom Buddies, the Dungeons Dragons movie. You could even say like what's that one movie? Bachelor Party. Not a good film. It's goofy. It's dumb, but I mean, it's not a good film.
But he was good, and he was in the Dungeons and Dragons that we were just talking about from the 90s.
No. He was in like that Dungeons and Dragons film that was all about the propaganda against Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't know that one.
It's called Mazes and Monsters. It's essentially that exact same. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Okay. But you just said it's pretty funny, so it's not a piece of crap.
No. It wasn't funny. It's essentially a horrible thing that now if you look at it, you'd be like, this is a cheese fest. It was trying to basically say Dungeons and Dragons will make kids into murderous killers.
Oh, so it was like the preacher in the 80s that said, these kids who listened to Judas Priest albums backwards and then they blew each other away.
On Fire of the Vanities is probably the movie people would say is probably Tom Hanks' worst.
Yeah, but still, the man is a national treasure. Yes. Just seeing him talk. I mean, he was on. He did Colbert earlier this week, and he was fantastic. I mean, so anyway, Man Called Otto. It's based
on Joe versus the volcano.
Oh, Joe versus the volcano. Okay, I'll give you that one.
He's got a pretty crappy record before the 90s. Let's be honest. Yeah. Big would be his like big standout. That was really
you think, yeah, it was kind of tilted. Yeah, but I mean, really, it's certainly in the last 25 years, he's kind of untouchable. He's America's national treasure. So at any rate, this film was based along two Swedish novels. Like they combined the two novels together. I don't have it in front of me, but that was the vibe I got with some of the reading I got. Has to do with a recent widower named Otto Anderson, who lives in suburban Pittsburgh. He's in basically a condo complex, and he is what Todd and I are rapidly becoming, an old curmudgeon, getting out, yelling at young people. That's probably more me than you, Todd, but at least I'm willing to admit it. Especially there's a snow pile on the other side of my fence that the school put up that kids are climbing on, and it's because I don't want them to fall into my fence and kill themselves. I had to call the school about it. That's how you know I'm an old man. Postscript to that story, found out the fence is school property. So if a kid does fall and kill himself on the fence, I'm not liable. But the kid is still dead. So that's still a bad thing. But at any rate, that's what's going on with Otto. And what you kind of find out as the film unfolds, and it's set in 2019-ish, so it's in the recent, and you'll see because there's a time evolution as the movie goes on, because I was looking at certain things, I'm like, why did they set this in the weird recent past? Anyway, what you find out, he's a widower, but you really do kind of understand the backlog of his story. He and his wife met when they were young in the 70s, and they were childless, and yada, 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 and it's all really revealed as the movie goes through. But the through line...
So it's up?
It is... Not really, because it's not really kid driven, and there's no balloons in a flying house. But other than that,
but I mean that's the whole thing. Like this is up going somewhere else.
It's up. It's sideways. No, that was a different movie with wine and stuff. What directions? Up, down, sideways, perpendicular. Maybe this movie is perpendicular. Could be
diagonal.
But at any rate, diagonal. Thank you. A couple moves in across the street, and they end up wanting to connect with him, but he is not having it, and it's just it's an exploration from there of his story. And I cried more than once watching this movie, and I don't know if it's just because we're getting older and more sentimental about things, but yeah, I absolutely adored this film. I would highly recommend it to you. It's not a genre film, but again, it's something that I think can appeal to people of our ilk, older folks, married, kids, no kids, whatever it is. And it's Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is a quadrant toucher, because we talk a lot about quadrants. People love him. He's done a lot of great stuff. And yeah, I recommend it. So Todd, I know that this kind of thing isn't always your big grab. What have you heard about the movie that would sway you?
I've heard it's good. It's like a more cuddly version of Gran Torino. So sort of like
definitely. He's not walking out with a shotgun. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he's the old guy who he shovels his walkway the same every time, and then he sweeps it and in both directions. Todd kind of reminds me of your snowblower stories. I mean, so it's kind of a little bit you and a little bit me of getting old and being a grumpy asshole. So.
I'm actually surprised this movie's actually in theaters, because he's been doing a lot of movies for Apple Plus. This is like I feel badly, but I think this is the type of movie that is they are struggling to do very well at the box office anymore. I think people said this type of movie, I can wait, because it's not tied to a big franchise. It can be seen on the small screen, because Tom Hanks isn't doing action sequences. So like I said, I think this movie is kind of like even talking about Oscar bait. They're like, a lot of these Oscar films are not doing well.
That's unfortunate. That was a recent one. Yeah, I went and saw a recent one that you're like, yeah, nobody's going to see it, but it was total Oscar bait. Now, I've already forgotten what it was. Some movie we saw last month.
This movie made like $4 million. That's not a good sign for Tom Hanks and his star vision, only making $4 million on a weekend.
Well, thank God he's made his bones and he's an old guy.
Exactly.
he's not trying to make his career.
You were talking about the Fabelmans? The same thing. There's like, if a Steven Spielberg movie can't make $80 million in its run, where that movie made like $5 million, like that's a portent of like smaller films just not.
Yeah, you're going to end up seeing less and less of them, because they're more consumable on the. I'll wait, because there's not big explosions.
Not must see. Yeah, unless
exactly.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I would still challenge you to say I thought this was an exceptional film, and when it does come your way, Todd, I would encourage you to watch it. You may find something in it that you like.
Well, Charlie, while you were seeing that, I watched two smaller things, both on the small screen as I was working out again. Yes, my workout room is slowly coming together. It's looking pretty good. We got a workout bench for my son. Has a Roman chair so I can do my back exercises. So very cool. It's set up. The TV's moved, so it's looking good. Just need some flooring to put down, which we'll do next. But led me into watching the newest animated series on HBO Max, which is Velma.
Yes, very controversial.
This is the Mindy Kaling-led, basically another take on Scooby-Doo. This is essentially their sophomores or juniors in high school, and there's like no connection with the mystery crew. Velma in this is played by an Indian American girl. Her dad is a Indian lawyer, and she's like been solving mysteries in her youth, and her mom mysteriously disappeared. So now, so now when she is trying to solve mysteries, she gets like these panic attacks. So she's tried to not do it. And then you find out her and Daphne were childhood friends, but there's a rift for some reason. You find out Shaggy is a African-American and he's pining for Velma, but he's not like into the 420 type of thing, eating Scooby snacks.
He's into the 420 space, which is ironic because the Kellogg Scooby snacks are something we go through in this house like nobody's business.
Yes.
Sorry, Todd.
No, that's okay. But it's funny. So a lot of the characters are not who you know them as. So Shaggy and Velma do kind of have a friend relationship. He's in the friend zone. He's actively pining for her. Then you've got Freddie, who is kind of a jerk dating Daphne, but is a real jerk who's not really tied into the whole Friends. We don't have the mystery incorporated yet.
Gotcha.
There is no sighting of Scooby-Doo yet. So,
okay. So this is obviously very controversial because they have, they've shaken up the snow globe. They changed a lot of integral things about the character. So the questions always become, did they accomplish something by doing that, or was it just shock value? Oh, she's she's a this, and he's not 420, and she's Indian now, and Scooby's black, and blah blah blah. So it's like, and not Scooby's
black.
No,
they made him a black lab. Oh no, he's no longer a Great Dane. Oh my God.
He's not brown, he's black.
The
question then becomes: are any of these changes? Does it help the story along? So that would be my very first question.
Yeah. So this is more of an adult take. So this feels like adult animation where it's they even do a lot of riffs on comedy and things like that. There's like I said, it's more of an adult approach. Feels like an Adult Swim take on Scooby-Doo, which is fine. But a lot of the humor does feel like it's that edgy. Takes on woke culture, which it's funny because I don't say like woke is bad. It just becomes this like parody of itself. It's like everything is against like those paradigms which you're used to, which is fine if it's done well. This feels like a updated take on Daria, and love or hate Daria, she was who she was. She was a character of the time. I don't find a lot to like about Velma in this version because she's kind of angry at everything and not very likable, which is like, I guess that works for some people if they don't want a likable character.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is the disconnect that it's just not for us, meaning us, you and me, people like, not so much that you're like, oh, I can't handle a different take on a character, but is it like as you were saying, is the take on it just like, like,
I don't it's to me it's trying to be edgy for edgy's sake. Let's just put it this way. There is a because I'm totally cool with whatever they want to do as long as it's good. And this one, it feels like the writing isn't up to par and it's not nailing it. It feels like it's trying to do what other shows have done, but done it better. And then they're like, oh, we're going to bring it back and try to make it because of the Scooby-Doo property. I don't think it helps either one do really well because if it's truly about the mystery part is very tiny in regards to like progressing that forward.
And you say, as illustrated in your background this week, if you're watching this on YouTube, that's what Scooby-Doo was all about. They're blah, 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 Old Man Johnson, there's people scaring them away from the amusement park, and it's a big Frankenstein. And at the end of it, we pull it off, and it was Old Man Johnson all along.
Yeah.
It's a but if you're like, oh, now like you said, if it's being edgy for edgy's sake, is it being written? And if the audience is geared towards an older audience, then give us something that it seems like something like this would be geared towards a younger audience because they might be with lack of familiarity. They would be less like, well, that's not my Scooby-Doo gang. You know what I mean? So
it could be.
It just seems very upside down because you would think, okay, well, we're going to introduce the Scooby Gang as a totally different, like I said, she's Indian, he's black, blah, blah, as opposed to like, oh, here you go, 40 somethings, here's Scooby-Doo and everybody's different. And, like I said, people who can't deal with quote unquote woke culture, the parody of it, it seems weird to me. So I don't know, but you're saying that at a first blush, it just didn't really blow your skirt up. Just not.
I watched the first 2 episodes. I think there might be 3 out because it just dropped. So HBO Max typically is a couple. I don't know. It just nothing really. I don't know my hook is because, like I said, the mystery. It's okay, and there's really no like supernatural element yet, except for the panic attacks she gets are kind of themed with a supernatural villain. That's not bad.
Like Wednesday, like how she would have visions.
Exactly,
or whatever.
Yeah, like where she's almost feeling like she's being attacked. But there's parts that I feel like okay, and there's no Scooby-Doo canon because there's been 85 different takes.
Scooby-Doo canon.
But there's one part I feel like it's really forced, and I'm like, okay, we're doing that. Okay, fine, whatever. Yeah, all right. Yeah. But like I said, I wished Velma in this version was more likable. In this instance, I just feels like she's angry and pushy and kind of like Daria, where Daria I didn't feel like was very likable too, but that was the thing. People around her was what kind of balanced it out. And this is so there's nobody I like, maybe except for Shaggy. I like Shaggy because he at least seems to be a nice person. Everybody else seems to be a jerk.
Right, exactly. Oh boy. All right. Well, no, that's good feedback. So, all right, what else you got?
So this next one is called Patton Goldman. This just dropped on Peacock. I think it's been out for like 3 or 4 weeks, and they've got like 5 episodes, and it comes out weekly. This thing's crazy, Charlie. I don't even know what to describe this thing.
I hadn't heard about it at all. So enrapture me.
I saw a trailer for this a while ago, and I'm like, this seems like a true crime story. But the approach to it is essentially this guy, Patton Goldman, his name is changed to protect the innocent, I guess. But he even tells you what his real name is. His real name is Paul Sinkelman. Yeah. And this is a very meta show because essentially you're hearing about what supposedly is a true story happening to this guy, Patton Goldman, in his life. But while we're telling that story, we're also getting like a pseudo, or maybe it's real, I don't know yet, that's just the weird part, like a reenactment movie with real actors, but he's the main actor in it too. So you get like behind the scenes as they're filming this. He's essentially he's cast as the main character, but then you get like real people like Dee Wallace from Poltergeist plays a pet psychic who is based on a real character in the movie, but she's playing she's portraying the real person who is the pet psychic. Goodness. And then you meet the real pet psychic. So it's very meta. It's very unique.
So it's like the Seinfeld where they're doing the Seinfeld, or they did that in like Californication as well. They're making a story about, David Duchovny's character's life.
But it's all at the same time, which is really weird. So it's like, it's compelling because I'm just finished episode 3 and it's so compelling because the story's like, this really happened to this guy. And it's so, because he's such a, we talked about nobody was likable on Velma.
Yeah.
Paul is just a goofy guy. You just love to watch him because
super likable. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he almost seems like a caricature of a real person, but it's really him. Yeah. And he brings in elements of his life, like his ex-wife, which was weird too. It's just crazy. And I think there is something more to this that we're going to get revealed as this goes on. Like this might actually be a sham and it's not a real story, which would even be a bigger mind meld, but it's really entertaining and I really like it. And the episodes are like 45 minutes long. So, but yeah, and it's dropping like real time. So it's like, we're going to get our next episode every week. So it's not like dropped at one day one. So people have seen the whole thing. They could spoil it for other people. So I don't know if this is truly going to be a flim flam type of like experiment or a real thing, but it's highly entertaining if you like just want to watch something that is so weird based on supposedly reality. So Patton Goldman.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Well, awesome. Good deal. All right. Well, that wraps it up for the Geek Easy. Got it. That 2 weeks in a row. I got it. It's time, Todd. Got to dig up that Air Qantas app. It's time to get to the land down under. The mutants and Tina are waiting for us, and we're bringing back a game. We're dusting off a game this week. So, want to know what it is? Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we're going back to a show that people love and hate, and that's Todd Show.
Ooh, I love it.
So Todd Show is a game we've done a few times where we essentially take a movie or a TV show where all we have is just the name of it, and we basically make up the rest. And it's typically not something we've seen before because that wouldn't make any sense. So this week, we are doing 90s fantasy movies. Fantasy is such a broad, like soft rock, Charlie. Fantasy can be very broad. It's anything that's not like aliens, I guess, in tech.
Right.
Anything outside of that essentially could be fantasy, made up stuff.
But people do describe Star Wars as sci-fi fantasy or fantasy or whatever. So you're right. The line it's very blurred. It's very blurred.
Yeah, the
blurred
Force
lines.
becomes magic. Yeah, the Force is magic. It's not related to anything. It's spiritual. It's religion, and it's
so spiritual. All right. So how about I deliver a title to you first? Sure. And then you go with God. Even the cover of this thing is so weird, but I'm not gonna share it with you until
the less I know about this, other than the title, the better.
And it's also one of those written and directed by some dude you've never heard of, so that bears well. Okay, you ready?
Absolutely.
The name of the film is Photographing Fairies.
Ooh, Photographing Fairies. Okay. Photographing Fairies. This takes place in, we'll say, mid-century of the 1800s, England. And we've got an unknown person who has actually created a camera. But just like the monkey's paw's curse, the only thing that this camera, and this is before it was actually introduced by Broadly, it can only capture the supernatural. And he thinks the main character's name is Robert Robertson.
Rob Bat.
Yes, he thinks his camera is broken. So he's trying to figure out, why doesn't this work? He's got everything set up. He's got the thing you hold your hand, you put the
click,
yes,
the powder.
He's got that all set up. He's got the blanket that goes over your head, and he's ready to go.
So set yourself on fire.
Yes. The old timey cameras. That's what it looked like. He's the guy that created this, but it doesn't work with humans. But he's taking pictures, and he thought that those were what he saw was real people. So he's got a conundrum. It's like, why is this not working? Well, he determines after he goes and talks to his wife, Roberta Robertson, and you find out Roberta actually is a demonologist. He never knew this before. So the two of them try to figure out what's going on. And we find out that his camera was built over a burial ground of Vikings.
Oh, Vikings! Oh my
exactly,
God!
Because they were going around in Europe, and
British Vikings. They got around.
Exactly, the Anglo-Saxons, the Vikings, they all came together. And it was made from a tree over a burial ground, so his camera is actually haunted. So he has a haunted camera, and then we find out the things that he actually is taking pictures of are evil fairies. Now, the fairies are the natural enemies of the Vikings.
Everybody knows that. It's
exactly.
Science.
It's science. Yeah, exactly. There's long history. Look at all the encyclopedias. The war between the Oaken Shields versus the Clover Feet. It's well renowned. So we find out that actually the fairies were imprisoned by the Vikings, and this leads us to a murder mystery where the couple keeps taking pictures and tells them more of the mystery, and they eventually find the fairies. You find that they're basically find their little bones in little glass jars where the Vikings have captured them, and this is their only way to reach out to humans is through the supernatural camera. So,
oh my gosh!
But the flim flam becomes when an ancestor of the Oakenshields comes to kill Robert and Roberta, so they don't release the fairy spirits into the wild.
And the little bones, like a Jamaican, like a chicken bone.
Exactly. But they were able to release one, that fairy, which was Jiggly Green Feet, was able to escape, take on the ancestor of the Viking, and that ends our tale. Basically, the fairies were released, and after that point, the camera then was able to take pictures of real humans.
Wow! Release the demons.
Robertson's middle name was Kodak.
Oh, like my dad, Bob Kodak, is what I always called him when I was growing up. Wow, that is amazing, and I bet I'm willing to believe that the third act had like a big blue sky hole, so it was like a Marvel movie. When did this movie come out?
Like I'm going to say 92.
So really bad CGI, just absolutely just bargain basement. Terrible.
It was all claymation, by the way. They did claymation for the fairies. Yeah.
Oh, I figured that plus some Muppetry would really nail it.
Well, after all that equipment to make the California raisins went to crap, you might as well use it for something.
Exactly. Still good. Well, you know what? You are not far off, and so far to say that you were not even close. This is a 1997 British fantasy film based on Steve Slangeli. Anyway, it's a weird last name. 1992 novel, Photographing Fairies. The film explores some themes of folklore, such as possession, paganism, animism, hallucinogens, parapsychology, and fairies. It was inspired by the Cottingley fairies hoax and was released in the United Kingdom in September of 1997. Now, as I said, it was written and directed by someone named Nick Willing, which is not a name I'm really familiar with. The only notable starring name in this, Sir Ben Kingsley.
Oh, really? So this is like an actual movie versus like a documentary. Okay.
Oh, no. It's a theatrical fictional film. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And and they go through here, and there's some elements of what you said that your main character, his name is Charles Castle, and he does have takes photographs, which does somehow, pick up some mysterious shapes and nobody can really understand. He's a post-World War I photographer. So he's survived a shell exploding in a trench in World War I, ends up back in London doing photography and ends up in the field. And then, there's some stuff with fairies, and then there's a murder, and there's a lot going on in this movie. So interesting, but definitely nothing fun or exciting going on here. Though reading the summary does sound like it has a happy ending, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle is a character in it. I've scrolled down further into the cast, so yeah, very interesting. So yes, Charles Castle, photographer, his fiance Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and Ben Kingsley plays a Christian minister named Nicholas Templeton.
Nicklesby, yes.
Interesting. Critical reception. Time Out London said Photographing Fairies, quote, aided by a fine cast, notably Kingsley as the girl's vicar father, and appropriately stunning photography by John de Boorman. It's a fresh, rewarding film, very intelligent and beautiful. Seems like I picked somewhat of a ringer. Well, you know what? I am interested to see where this plays because I might check it out. Who knows? So anyway, great work. And just for your own edification, if I go to justwatch.com, which I highly recommend as a place to find things that stream, it is available to rent or purchase on Vudu. $3.99 is the price. So the $3.99 price is so nice. So go for it. So there you go. Photographing Fairies.
Well, excellent. Charlie, are you ready for mine?
I was born ready. Let's party.
Okay, here we go. I'm
all ears.
The name of the movie.
I'm going to close my eyes so I can just draw a picture.
The name
my
of the
brain.
movie is Jacob Tutu Meets the Hooded Fang.
Well, I mean, the pieces of this are pretty obvious. We're in Colonial Williamsburg in like 1995. Jacob Tutu is an obnoxious 12-year-old tourist. He's kind of an overweight kid. You see him eating like he's smashing a hot dog in his face. He's got a lollipop, and he's doing is bitching about having to go on this vacation with his parents. His dad's a CPA, his mom's a stay-at-home, put upon stay-at-home mother who's just meh. Just they're a miserable couple, and he's their only child, spoiled rotten, and just an obnoxious little dipshit. Let's face it, Jacob Tutu is his name. So they're going through Colonial Williamsburg, and the kid naturally gets lost. And I say all of this without having any idea of what Colonial Williamsburg is like as far as the layout. But the kid wanders off outside of the established area, and the sun is going down. He's in the forest, and he's like, "Oh, what am I doing in the forest? I need another hot dog. What's going on?" And as he's wandering, he comes upon some caves, and naturally coming upon some caves, he hears the growl of a wolf. And yes, that's right. It's what was the other part of it?
Jacob Tutu and the Hooded meets the Hooded Fang.
Okay, so boom, who comes out of the cave but a wolf wearing a cloak, but standing on all fours. So Jacob's like, he's gonna piss himself. He's just absolutely terrified. Didn't say anything about poop because that was a deal. He's gonna pee himself. So he starts running. The Hooded Fang is chasing him. He falls down a rabbit hole, and he ends up in Cool World. Basically, he's in this weird animation thing that's happening. It's Cool World, but it's reversed. So Brad Pitt is animated, but the other characters are real, and he's flopping around trying to figure out how to get out of there. But the Hooded Fang has also fallen down the hole and is continuing to pursue him. But you'll see along the way that Jacob starts to make some friends. It's more of a spiritual journey, kind of an awakening for him as he discovers his maturity and being a better friend to the characters he meets within Cool World, all the while still evading the Hooded Fang until the dreaded third act. That's right, Big Blue Sky Hole, because that's the only way that he can get home. But what stands between him and getting home is the Hooded Fang. But Jacob, because he's in Cool World, he's able to assimilate the animations. He makes himself this absolutely crazy suit of armor, kind of like Iron Man, way before its time, because this is, like I said, this was the early 90s. Terrible animation, trying to cash in on the lack of success from 1993's Cool World. No, if this came out in 1992, this was the precursor to Cool World. Oh my God, it's amazing. So anyway, there's a big fight, Big Blue Sky Hole, terrible animation, all, 2D animation, single cell, not Disney quality. They fight, and at the end, he pulls back the Hooded Fang's hood, and because the Hooded Fang, again, they're right at the crux of the Big Blue Sky Hole, and the Hooded Fang is himself as an adult. That's right. What happened is that after you go into Cool World, time passes at an accelerated rate. 30 years have gone by, and by the time he got out, he was this grizzled veteran. Maybe people thought he was a werewolf, but anyway, he's living in the woods of Colonial Williamsburg, and all the Hooded Fang has been trying to do was to save him from this fate. So the Hooded Fang has some kind of computer he's built. He pushes a couple of buttons. The Big Blue Sky Hole changes from this angle to that angle, which takes him back to the present. He pushes Jacob through the Big Blue Sky Hole pushes him up, like maybe he's got one of those scissor lift things, pushes him through it. And then because he's changed history, the Hooded Fang disappears. But because of of temporal mechanics, you would think, oh no, then Jacob's not going to have learned all those great lessons. But Jacob does learn all those great lessons. He finally finds his way back to the Colonial Williamsburg Motel 6, where his cheap ass parents are staying, and it has changed his perspective. It's kind of like that movie Dutch that Ed O'Neill was in the early 90s, where the kid was actually Ethan Embry. I had no idea. I looked that up recently. Kind of blew my mind. Where instead of being a little bastard, now he is a good kid, and he's lived a lifetime living in Cool World, and now he's a good kid. That would be the story of Jacob Tutu and the Hooded Fang. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
While I can see elements of your story, in the real movie, no.
Oh well.
I learned a lot about this movie, Jacob Tutu and Meets the Hooded Fang, because it's actually a childhood book. Didn't know this. Came out in the 70s. There was another movie made in 1977, but the one we're talking about is the 1999 movie, Charlie. So, Charlie, the plot is such. One day, a boy named Jacob Tutu, because he repeats everything twice, decides to set out to prove himself,
including wearing tutus.
Yes, decides to set out to prove himself to his parents that he can do things. So his father, who is tired of hearing his wife order him to do the shopping, sends Jacob out to buy 2 tomatoes. As Jacob makes his way to buy them, the green grocer in the shop keeps telling an officer that Jacob was threatening him. So Jacob escapes, but only just hitting his head rather than...
He's like, fuck them kids.
Yeah, he hits his head rather hard, and he wakes in court, where he's sentenced to 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 hours, 2 minutes, and 5 seconds to a children's prison run by not only a mad wrestler.
Prison. Oh my God.
Not only a mad wrestler presumed lost, but also 2 aptly named bird-like and fish-like cohorts, as well as slimy humanoids that spray resistors with slime to stop them in their tracks. Helping Jacob in his mission are 2 young agents that aim to free all the children kept prisoner in the swampy penitentiary. It is up to Jacob Tutu to escape his heinous prison and free all of the other imprisoned children. Yes.
Wow. So he does have some kind of fantastical journey of redemption, is what you're saying.
Yes, but he is not the Hooded Fang.
He's not the Hooded Fang.
Yeah. So I'll give you who the cast is. I'll give you.
Yeah. I got to know who the Hooded Fang is.
So Gary Busey is the Hooded Fang. Yes.
I mean, he's crazy enough. And this came out in 1999.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know that he was quite to his craziest, but he wasn't doing a lot after what was the last time I could pick, like Predator 2, which was 1990. I don't know. I can't picture him in anything.
Yeah, exactly. So also Mark McKinney from SNL and also Kids in the Hall was Mr. Fish. Miranda Richardson, famous actress, was Miss Fowl.
British actress, yeah.
Max Morrow was Jacob Tutu. Not sure if he's done anything else since then. And then Ice-T was the judge.
What? The only thing I can really think of Ice-T, like fantasy sci-fi related being in, is he was in was it not Judge Dredd?
He was in The Ghost of Mars.
Or it was Tank Girl. He was in Tank Girl.
Yeah, and Ghost of Mars, I believe.
And Ghost of Mars,
no,
yeah,
Ice
exactly.
Cube. No, that was Ice Cube. Sorry.
Right, yeah, no, Ice-T was like some big mutant creature, like a
kangaroo.
Mutant, yeah, exactly. He says, I used to be a cop. And Ice-T, of course, I most finally remember from New Jack City, as far as an acting role, because I love that film. But how interesting. So this was like a Canadian-American film, or?
No, this one was Canadian. Yes, you're right.
Okay,
absolutely
gotcha.
Canadian. Yeah.
I mean, you know what? There is a 65% chance anything you're watching was filmed in Canada because it's cheaper.
Absolutely, yeah. And once you're actually watching this, folks, I'll put covers of these movies up as we talk about them. Yes, so you can see what we're talking about. Yes.
It'll be absolutely fun. Well, holy cow. This was fantastic. And again, we hadn't done this in over a year. And our overall goal when it comes to our core, games is that we only have 4 or 5 of them. And we try to space them out by at least like 3 to 6 months at a bare minimum so that it doesn't get to be, really tedious. Plus, we don't sneak them in a lot because we often have other stuff to talk about. But this was the proverbial slow week for discussion. But anyway, yes, there will be certainly more to come. We're getting into kind of the Secret Friends Unite season of excitement, which we'll be hearing about very shortly. But with that is the end of this great installment of our show. Friends, thank you for joining us. Todd, where do people find you out there on the web?
Yeah, follow me at Twitter at Toxtra. Also on Hive at Todd of War, which I don't know if that site people are going to care about much other than that. But other than that, just check out secretfriendsunite.com and also our YouTube channel, Secret Friends Unite. There.
Yes, indeed.
I'd love to check out our content.
Plug. You can find me on Twitter, as always, at the C3. I don't dabble on a lot of other things. I'm very active on our SFU Discord, which I absolutely love. My wife, April, and I do run the USS Grand Petoskey. That is one of the biggest chapters of the Starfleet, Star Trek International Fan Club. We're based here in West Michigan, but have members absolutely everywhere. You can find us at a website of that name and across most socials as well. We would love to have you on board for the journey. So one more time, friends, I'll tell you, thank you for joining us. Let you know that sharing is caring, and keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
Toot.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends